Welcome to the summit, What is the Unknown? And I now have Ervin Laszlo here with us with his latest book, Reconnecting to the Source. And Ervin, welcome. And you have the book here to show.
Well, you can read it.
Thank you. And you're a philosopher of science. You have a PhD and you've written 400 research papers and articles and 100 books. And then you're also the founder of the Laszlo Institute of New Paradigm Research and also the founder of the Club of Budapest. And yeah, you've received multiple honors and awards, and you were also nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize in 2004 and 2005. So yeah, you're about peace, source, oneness, what we are. And my first question is, what is source essence? What is that? What is it we really are?
Depending on what you look at and where you take your information from, your wisdom from. If you look at the latest sciences, then we are not bits of matter. We are not sort of a plasma moving around in space. We are actually patterns of frequencies at specific wave orientations and specific groups, clusters of waves. This doesn't sound very helpful, but it is actually sort of the outcome, the consequence of all the experiments that is being done in the advanced areas of the quantum sciences. So we are actually part of an information field, if you like. Sometimes it's been called the Akashic field. I've written on that myself, or the universal quantum field. The universe itself is a holographic vibrational quantum field. And everything that happens in it is a cluster of waves at specific frequencies and amplitudes and phases. Some of these waves come together and they come at the same phase at compatible frequencies. And then they appear together to make something. But these things are not sort of the original Newtonian bits of matter. They are still wave patterns, but they appear to be solid. They appear to be something against the background. The background is the universal field, and these wave patterns emerge. But this is the sort of the abstract new quantum science view of who we are. It doesn't seem immediately helpful, because how to deal with such a wave pattern. But just to say that because we are these wave patterns and everything else is wave patterns, we are immediately connected. And that's important, that's helpful. We are connected. What happens to one pattern happens to all the others too. And that's the information or consequence of the new experiments on the quantum field, that things are instantly, space and time, independently interconnected. What happens here happens also there. What happened yesterday happens today again, and will continue to happen. So we are part of this space and time independent quantum field. That's the best one can say to the question, who are we really?
Yeah, so it's like we manifest or appear as this body, mind, the world, life, and it's vibrational patterns that appears like that. And so it's like energy, light, and you write about the informed, we are informed.
Are the latest information that we can take from the sciences, the latest theories, particularly as articulated by David Bohm, but many others as well, is that there are different domains or dimensions in this universe. There's a surface domain where everything that we see is there. That's where what we see and hear, whether directly or through the internet or digitally, however, what comes into our mind, to our perception, is a reflection, is a manifestation, if you like, of something that exists at a deeper level. So Bohm and the quantum scientists call this the explicate order, where everything is unfolding, but is there at the deeper level is unfolded here. The deeper level is known as the implicate order. It's the same order that was known to Plato when he talked about, the analogy of the cave, when he said that the light is behind us, that's reality. And when we look at the shadows on the wall in front of us, then we think that that's reality, but actually this is just the shadows cast by us and of the fire that is behind us. So we don't immediately perceive that the deeper order. We can deduct it infer it from what we do perceive. We perceive the real world around us, and this real world is not separate little bits and pieces. This real world is a manifestation of an interconnected quantum field of patterns in that field. Therefore, we are really one with the universe. All things are basically one. They are part of a single quantum field. That's the best inference we can achieve from looking at these results of the new sciences.
So we are already source. We are that. The vibrational patterns, the waves, the wholeness.
It's all one. It's all basically one. What we see are manifestations. So therefore, when we think that these things are separate, then as Einstein said, we just take an illusion. Things are really not one. Erwin Schrödinger, a great quantum scientist, also said that consciousness is one, he said. There's only one consciousness in the world. There's only one reality in the world, basically. And so this is an old intuition. I think it goes back to the Indian, the Hellenic, the Indian seers themselves, and the Hellenic thinkers picked it up also. So it's an old intuition which we now see substantiated because the experiments that we can now perform show that things that happen here have an effect over there, not just they affect something else. It appears as if they were also happening elsewhere. This is known as non-locality. Things are not confined to the here and now. Things are basically everywhere at all times. A very difficult concept, but it means that what you do, what we do at any one time is also has an effect. That's the wrong way to put it, actually. But it also happens elsewhere. So we are, in that sense, one. The old intuition, which is surfacing now at the edge of the new cultures, the new mentality, is that we are one. There's oneness in the world, and that is really substantiated by the experiments which show that we are not separate.
Yeah, so somewhere we know intuitively that we are one and it's all interconnected. But somewhere it seems like how people act out in the world, they act from separateness, like as if they are separate.
Because this seems to be given to us that I am here and you are there, and it's difficult to perceive that we are actually part of a whole field in which me here and you over there are shadows on the wall, are manifestations, if you like. Of course, my own reality is still a reality, but it's not a separate reality. And so it's just as well. I think people who are reaching a higher level of consciousness, higher level of spirituality, know this, they experience it, they experience oneness. When we say that there is a deeper connection, and that I said in my book, for example, I ask some of thought leaders, 18, 19 thought leaders, to disclose their own experiences. And the own experiences, they didn't know about each other. They all asked them independently of each other. And they all describe experiences that culminate in the same way, in the experience of oneness. And the personal experience of oneness is belonging, is actually even love in that sense of not love for one thing against something else, but love for feeling ourselves being part of something. Therefore, if we love each other, love ourselves, we also love the world because we are so much an intrinsic part of the world. And that's an experience of peak, that's an outcome of or consequence of peak experiences, as Abraham Maslow would say, at the highest level of spirituality. That is an experience. I think all the great prophets came up with this. Lao Tse with the Tao, the Old Testament with the ideas of oneness and creation. Jesus with his notion of advice of love for all things, of being one with one thing. We have this oneness, and prophets knew it. Intuitive people know it, and we are acting. That's why we have so many problems in the world. We are acting as though this would not be true, as though we will be just separate beings pursuing our own interests. Never mind what it happens to the others, and that's a wrong attitude, fragmenting the world, cutting things apart, and creating conflict between these separate parts. It's high time to reform that.
And in your book, you have these stories about people who had peak experiences, very interesting. And it is usually like this oneness, this love, this equanimity or being, the isness, the wholeness, complete. Yeah, you can use whatever words, right? It won't describe it really. It's kind of unknown and mysterious what it is, but it's full. And I wonder, do you need an experience or a peak experience to know that for yourself, that that's what you actually are always?
It's good to be able to connect with oneself, because then we can also connect with others. We not just live in our brain, in our superficial pragmatic mentality. Now, there is some very interesting information coming forth that is not yet in my book, but it's coming forth very strongly. And it's really, it just gives further evidence to what I say in this book. And that is that our heart, actually our physical heart, is a powerful receiver and transmitter of waves of emitting waves and radiation, and perceiving the wave patterns around it. Probably before these wave patterns reach our brain, they reach our heart. Our heart has a broader bandwidth, as you like. It perceives information that is so close to the brain. The brain gets information, what we know on the EEG spectrum, the electroencephalograph spectrum. It's on the beta level mostly, But this information comes on lower levels, on alpha, on theta levels, even on delta. So that means that these deep level information, which connects us to the world, connects us to each other, is not perceived by the conscious brain, but it is reaching the heart. And if we are in touch with our heart, if we are connected to our own heart, which we don't necessarily are because we sometimes ignore that information from the heart, if we are, then we perceive that in a broader way, we perceive what seems to be anomalous information, strange, unknown, unknowable, seemingly unknowable information, becomes available to us, because this information is there, but it comes at a deeper frequency. Sometimes it comes at a very high frequency. They have this ecstatic element, feeling of oneness, comes at a very high frequency also. So what we actually perceive with our ordinary rational mind, with the brain, is just a segment. And that segment seems to be that we are separate, seems to be composed of separate entities, objects, things, and people, and groups of people, atoms and galaxies and everything in between, But ultimately, when you're going to the deeper frequency or into this higher ecstatic frequency, we perceive the world as one. And so this should be a guide for a different way of behaving, not being selfish and short term, but thinking in terms of being part of something larger than we are.
Yeah, and the heart, it seems like this openness and this innocence, and maybe the seed of creativity as is best.
Yes. All of creativity, or higher mind, as it were, is given to us, but we need to perceive it, and we need to enter what psychiatrists call, or consciousness researchers call, an altered state of consciousness. This altered state is there, is available to us. We can reach it through meditation, through prayer also, through ecstatic experiences, and through these depths that the Buddhists are talking about, this deep calmness, which we allow the mind to work, to give us its information, and we are not being taken up by this constant chatter of the brain for the everyday concerns or the everyday world around us, but get down deeper. It's there, we can access it. Then we have what I call in this book, and what other people also call, then we have the spiritual experience. And the spiritual experience connects us to the world. That's the key to it. And I think we become better persons because we become part of the human family, rather than being just an individual separate from it. And the human family of which we are a part becomes evidently part of the web of life on this planet. And probably the web of life on this planet will be part of life on other planets in the universe. Probably there is one system of life in the universe, and that our biosphere belongs to that, and we belong to the biosphere. So this seems to be metaphysical notions, but they are really consequences of the experiments and the findings that come through at the leading edge of the new sciences.
So we already whole and one, and it's a matter of recognizing it.
Indigenous people, insofar as they have not been converted and subverted by modernism, they lived intuitively as wholes, and they are connected to each other. We know that many indigenous people, particularly in the East and the Australia as well, they can sense each other even at a distance. Many anthropologists talk about many instances of people being away from someplace and they know what happens at home and they try. They feel if there's something wrong. We still know today in the so-called civilized world that mothers, when they have a child, they're away and there's something happening to the child, something is wrong. They also feel it. They are connected with the child because there's a strong love connecting them. And lovers feel each other also across the distance, and mothers and children and family, etc. So I think this is still there. We are just ignoring it. We're acting as if we would be separate little bits, independently moving about. It's the old Newtonian view, coupled with the Darwinian view that it's the strongest that survives. All of that leads us to a highly competition-filled, a stressful world in which we are destroying the integrity. Now we are trying to see, now we are beginning to see how much we are destroying the integrity of life, of physical conditions for life on this planet, and how much we would have to return to a better norm. And I think these altered states of consciousness are providing an avenue for returning to a more natural norm that is there for all life, and for which we have opted out. And let's get back. We can get back to it. And for that, we need to be a bit more spiritual, having a deeper sense of who we are. We can ask these questions that you ask, and I think we will then come closer to being a functional and healthy element of the world instead of a kind of a cancer that destroys the world.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And what's the best website for your work and your books?
You can just put in laszloinstitute.com. That is just one website. I have several. If you put my name on it, you'll find a whole lot of them, But the laszloinstitute.com or Ervin Laszlo books, then you have all my books listed there,
Yeah.
And I published 4 books on it this last year, and they're very recent. And the books that I published in the last few years are clearly reflected this new point of view, what I call the new paradigm. The institute that I founded is an institute called for New Paradigm Research, the Laszlo Institute for New Paradigm Research, and is dedicated precisely to exploring these questions that you are raising.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
You're very well. And here again, to remind people, is this little book. It's reconnecting to.
Reconnecting to the source, yes.
Thank you, Susan, and hope you have enjoyed the reading. I'll be happy to answer questions if you come and if other readers come, we can discuss them.
Thank you so much.
Oh, ciao, ciao.